On the record, if folks can get seated here. All set? Okay, we are back on the record, and let the record reflect that all of the board members have received the additional documentation. And I'm going to ask Ms. Doherty if she has any questions about the additional documentation, which are basically character reference letters.
I do have one question. I did have a chance to review all these letters. Do the individuals that wrote these letters, are they aware of your license discipline history with the board, and are they aware of your criminal convictions?
Yes.
I have no further questions regarding these letters or for petitioner.
Okay, and I know the board just received these, so what I'm going to do now is mark these as collectively as Exhibit E for identification, and they will be admitted into the record. And if any of the board members have any questions about these letters, just kindly, you can kindly ask the questions. I won't go down the line.
I do have one question. Are the folks that have provided references aware of your current situation? Are they aware of your history?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, board members, do you need additional time, or does anybody have any questions regarding the letters? I'm not seeing anybody nodding in the affirmative, so it doesn't appear there are any questions regarding the letters. And Ms. Doherty, you're finished with your questioning, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, Ms. Jackson, is there anything you'd like to add in closing? And actually, before that, do you have any witnesses to testify on your behalf?
If I could call my mother,
Okay,
is that possible?
that is possible.
Okay, I would like to call my
Please-
mother.
Okay. And madam, before you sit down, if you could kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. And madam, I'm going to ask you to speak loudly and clearly into that microphone before you, and just make sure that it's set to the on button. There should be a green light. Okay, is the green light on?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can just get that microphone right up to your mouth and go ahead and say what you would like to say.
I don't know how much I can say because I am biased.
Okay, well,
She-
first of all, can you identify yourself for the record?
My name is Alfreda Saylor. I'm the mother of April Jackson.
Okay, and you have written a letter on behalf of your daughter as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is it you would like to say?
Just that she, actually, April does not have any kinds of problems. It's just that she, under stress, she did what she did, but we were around her 24/7, and she does not have a problem. So personally, I don't see any reason why she shouldn't have a license, but I'm not a professional, but just as her mother, I feel that she deserves her license back.
Any questions from any of the board members?
Thank you so much for coming up here and talking to us. Why do you think she deserves her license? And you can just speak from the heart.
Because this is what she has done since high school. She's loved it since high school. And she started with the medical program in high school and went straight through, and she has not stopped until, of course, she made those mistakes.
Do you think that if she was to come into a stressful situation, that she can count on you for your support?
Oh, by all means, yes.
What kind of support can you provide to her?
Emotional support is what I provide for her. And I can always tell when she needs it, and I'm there for her when she does need it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the board? All right, with that, Ms. Jackson, would you like to say something in closing before I close the record?
Sure. I mean, at the risk of sounding redundant, I would really like to practice again, and alcohol isn't my life. If I were told to give it up today, I could give it up in a blink of an eye. Socially done, wouldn't look back. And I, of course, definitely would make completely different, since the incident, I analyze every decision I make personally, and, factored into how it affects my life as a whole. So if it's one thing that this entire situation has taught me is I really have to be mindful of my actions and my behavior and how it could affect me down the road.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jackson. Any other questions? I forgot to ask Ms. Doherty if you had any questions for Ms. Jackson's mother.
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, very good. With that, then, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The matter is submitted, the record is closed, and we will be moving on to the next petition. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
All right, the next petition hearing is for Roxanne Villarreal. We are on the record in the matter of the petition of Roxanne Villarreal. This is OAH number 2019-041116. May I take the appearances of counsel, please?
Good morning, Your Honor and board members. My name is Caitlin Dougherty, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General and pursuant to Business and Professions Code, Section 2878.7, and Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the board has adequate information from which to make a decision.
Thank you. Sir, you are?
Thank you, Your Honor. Alan Castillo appearing for Ms. Villarreal in support of the petition on counsel record in the matter.
Is your microphone on? I can barely
I
hear you.
apologize, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to repeat my appearance?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Alan Castillo, attorney at law with the SoCal Law Network, appearing on behalf of Ms. Villarreal in support of the petition for reinstatement.
Okay, and good morning to you, Mr. Castillo. And we have,
Hello, I am Roxanne Villarreal. I am the nurse here that is asking for reinstatement, a petitioner for reinstatement for my license.
okay, and good morning to you, Ms. Villarreal. At this time, I'm going to put you under oath, so if you could kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Doherty?
At this time, I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence our exhibit binder. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit binder. What's been pre-marked as Exhibit A is the petition for reinstatement with accompanying documents. Exhibit A's accompanying documents generally consist of the Victorville Criminal Court case information for case number FV I-900269, Victorville Criminal Court case information printout for case number TV I-80203, along with various certificates of training that petitioner has done since the date she surrendered, explanation of hardship letter by Sergio Verral dated March 23rd, 2011. A total of 4 reference letters, all dated in 2018 and one in 2008. All dated in 2008 and one dated in 2018. A statement of petitioner that's not dated, a letter from Matrix Institute of Addictions Compliance letter, High Desert Child, Adolescent and Family Services Center, appointment form, a letter of participation from St. John of God Health Care Services, AA sign-in sheets dated from April 13th, 2017 to September 15th, 2017, treatment summary from San Bernardino County Department of Behavioral Health, and a letter from Pine Ridge Treatment Centers. And then Exhibit B is a license certification, Exhibit C is a notice of hearing and related correspondence, and Exhibit D is the 2012 board decision. At this time, I'd like to ask that these exhibits be admitted into evidence.
Okay. Any objections, Mr. Castillo?
No objections to any of the exhibits proposed.
Okay, thank you, sir. And are there any additional documents you intend to introduce other than what's in the exhibit?
Your Honor, there are 3 additional character reference letters we're having copied at this time and will seek to introduce at the conclusion of the hearing.
Very good, thank you,
Or
sir.
prior to the conclusion, I should say.
Okay, very good. All right, at this point, can have Ms. Villarreal testify on her own behalf, or?
Yes, I would like her to testify on her own behalf. If I could just make a brief statement.
You bet.
Your Honor, can I provide a quick license history background prior to?
Sure.
I'll now provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's license number is VN228848, issued August 13th, 2007. The board filed an accusation against petitioner's license on January 17th, 2012. The accusation alleged that petitioner had been convicted of crimes substantially related to the qualifications, functions, or duties of a licensed vocational nurse. In 2009, petitioner was convicted of violating Penal Code Section 69, deterring or preventing an officer from performing a duty by means of any threat or violence. And one misdemeanor count of violating Health and Safety Code Section 11550A, being under the influence of a controlled substance. Again, in 2009, petitioner was convicted of driving while having an equal or greater than 0.08% blood alcohol level. On October 25th, 2012, the board issued a decision and order adopting the proposed decision in case number VN 2008-1956, effective November 24th, 2012, in which respondent's vocational nurse license was revoked and respondent was ordered to pay costs of $1,811.67. Currently, there's a cost balance of $1,286.67. On August 22nd, 2018, petitioner filed a petition for reinstatement. Petitioner is now requesting that the board reinstate her license. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question the petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Mr. Castillo?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the board. Without restating what's already been filed in our petition for reinstatement on behalf of Ms. Villarreal or the supporting documents, I simply want to summarize for the board what is a very significant treatment history that originates from 2 criminal cases which form the basis of the accusation that led to the revocation in this matter. The 2 criminal cases cited by the Deputy Attorney General arose out of San Bernardino County. One involved a misdemeanor DUI in 2008. The second case involved a misdemeanor resisting arrest by force and being under the influence. That case was from 2009, also out of San Bernardino. What's important about those cases as it relates to the issue of Ms. Villarreal's rehabilitation and recovery is that she was using alcohol and methamphetamine at the time of those incidents. In light of that drug and alcohol use, the court ordered as an overall settlement package, which was referenced in the accusation at the time of revocation, was a 3-year probation period on both cases. She was ordered to do 270 days in the county jail. But more importantly, she was ordered by the court as a condition of her probation to complete what is called the Inroads in Custody Rehabilitation Program. She completed that program during the course of her probation period, which began from the time she pled guilty on both cases. When she completed the Inroads program, was subsequently released from custody, she went into the Loma Linda Treatment Center, left her employment, and did about approximately 45 days in the Loma Linda Treatment Center, at which time she transitioned to the intensive outpatient program at Pine Oak Ridge, Center, where the paperwork is in the exhibits in support of the petition for reinstatement show the progress report that she completed approximately 60 days in that treatment program. She will tell you that she went on to complete the program's aftercare, and that subsequent to her completion of Pine Ridge and their aftercare program, she continued to participate in AA, ultimately obtained a sponsor, ultimately completed her big book training, the 12 steps, spoke on AA panels, and ultimately became a sponsor herself to at least 2 sponsees, one of which will have submitted a character reference letter to this board. As 2017 approached, and Ms. Villarreal will speak to this, she decided that it was time to explore reinstatement of her license. She will tell you that in 2017, she went on to actually participate in yet another aftercare program, which is part of the documentation you see in support of the petition. She specifically went to the St. John of God 6-month aftercare program in February of 2017. Subsequent to completing that program, she continued on in August of 2017 in the Matrix program. She will tell you in her own words why she did that at the time. and that she did to show the board a more updated and recent period of sobriety that began dating back to her participation and completion of the Inroads program at the San Bernardino County Jail. She's had a long road. She's come a long way. She will tell you in her own words her recovery history. There is one final point. The board did indicate in its documentation that there was one criminal conviction post revocation. It was not any basis of the accusation. It was a separate misdemeanor case referenced by the Attorney General in the petition documents. It was a conviction that occurred in 2015 for a disturbing the peace under Penal Code 415. That case was initially charged. We have the case number. It's MVI 1405571. That case was a misdemeanor vandalism, did not involve alcohol or drugs. She will explain to you the circumstances of that conviction. The vandalism charge was dismissed, and she entered a plea of no contest in approximately 2015 and was not placed on any probation. The disposition of the case was terminal, and she was assessed a $109 fine. That was a dispute between her and her ex-husband, who ironically now is one of the people who have filed character reference letters in her support. With that being said, I'll let Ms. Villarreal speak to you on her own with respect to her recovery and treatment history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Okay.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I truly apologize for my actions and any harm that it may have caused anyone for what I did. I take full responsibility for each and every action that I did. These were true mistakes that I made. I did have some undue and unforeseen personal hardships in my life, but I certainly could have handled it differently. I certainly could have reached out in a way that would have been more healthy, and I have learned a lot through this process. Unfortunately, I had to hit a rock bottom in order to rehabilitate myself and see what needed to be done in order to be the person that I am today. I would like to also say that I have found a new life inside the walls of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. I realize that I do have the disease of alcoholism. I do realize through going with my sponsor that this is a lifelong disease that I will have to continue to address, and I am addressing it. And I do realize that the methamphetamine was also a way to enable myself to drink more. And alcohol is a demon for me that I have to maintain complete abstinence from in order to recover. I'm a better person today. I have a sponsor. She wrote some documentation about me. Her name is Virginia Douglas, and she works through the 12 steps. We went back through the 12 steps again. And that was in 2016. We went back through this 12 steps, and we worked them. And I've also been not only attending meetings regularly, sometimes up to 4 times a day, to keep myself active and busy in my program. I also involve myself in AA and NA activities. I go on various trips and try to be active in my community. I'm a domestic violence advocate. That was one of the issues that occurred during this hardship. There was domestic abuse, and I had to break the cycle of violence, and so I filed a restraining order to get this situation under control and to get it out of my life, and so that I can continue on my efforts of recovery and do the very best that I can. Today I'm very cordial with my ex, and we have one of support. He's in recovery as well, but we live 2 separate households, and I feel that is best for my future. And so I took the steps to do the things to have a better life today. I made some bad decisions. On each and every decision that I made, I had to take some time off to get these things right. I had to make those wrongs right, each and every single one of them. Most importantly, I want to prevent these things from ever happening again. And there's been a very long time since anything like that has ever happened in my life. I have a full commitment to my sobriety. And that full commitment involves basically working my steps and doing everything to go back to the field that I love, which I've been into the nursing profession since I was 18 years of age. I started off as a CNA and I went on, and this is my passion. This is what I love. This is who I am, and this is all that I know to do. It was really hurtful for me to have something like this occur in my life, but I am glad that I did no harm. I did make a decision to walk away from my job and tell my supervisor I needed time off. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And unfortunately, that day I could no longer perform my duties, I felt, to the best of my ability, but it did lead to a great rehabilitation and recovery for me, and so I don't regret doing so. I can assure you that I can assume the duties of an LVN. Again, I am doing everything and taking the steps to right the wrongs, and I know there are quite a few of them. A lot of them did have to do with this tumultuous relationship that I was in. It was a 21-year-long marriage in which cops were called repeatedly. He would do it to me, I'd do it to him, and different charges would come about, and that did affect my license. Today we both realized that wasn't right, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I didn't have to be there. I didn't have to do what I did, but I was there and participated in those things. I did leave the abuse. I did get a sponsor. I am a volunteer in my community. I did become a person who works with children in a domestic violence setting, helping to heal them and understanding what that's like. And that has helped me to heal as well. I have a therapist and I go to regular meetings. I've also took up different types of volunteer inside the AA walls. I'm a secretary for a meeting. I've held GSR position for 1 year, secretary for 1 year, and then a secretary again now, just recently. The most important thing that I learned was to take care of myself, because without taking care of myself and self-care, I can't take care of others. And so I'm not neglecting my needs and who I am as a nurse, and realizing that I need to do this. I need to do certain steps to take care of me in order to be the best person I can for anyone else. I did take actions to expunge my record and get that cleaned up to get a new start on life. I asked God's forgiveness. I also asked people in my life for forgiveness. And I made amends to those people. I'm at peace with each and every person in my life today. I have met all the court's requirements, finished probation, and most importantly, I've cut off any bad associates or contacts that I had in my life that were not positive. Most of my contacts now revolve around my program or other medical professionals who had the similar problems, which really helps me to get that support because they understand what that's like and where I'm coming from. And so also, finally, I'd like to add that that professional atmosphere that I've had, as far as having other, I have a best friend and she's a registered nurse, and she revealed to me her recovery, and we meet regularly and we discuss recovery topics, and that really helps. We also discuss medical topics. So it really helps to do the research to see that this is a disease and it can be managed, and I am doing so successfully, and I believe that this is something that affects people in a way that is effectively treatable. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. All right, we're going to entertain some questions from the board, starting with my left, Dr. Mountain.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I appreciate hearing your story very much. Thank you for sharing with us. I do have just a couple of quick questions. One is, what type of nursing were you doing when your license was active?
When my license was active, I was a pediatric nurse, and I was working with children with rare disorders.
And have you been able to do anything to stay on top of all the changes in healthcare during the last few years?
I've done a lot of research and work with children in a setting that wasn't professional, but in the domestic shelter, and then researching different medical topics inside the shelter and assisting them inside the shelter with any medical concerns. And basically, I was the person who researched any problems that they had.
And should your license be reinstated, is your interest to continue on in pediatrics?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Board Member Sellers.
Yes, good morning.
Good
I just
morning.
want to congratulate you on your success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Board Member Deerking.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Villarreal.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Sounds like you've made significant efforts at working the program. Do you continue to do the 12 steps?
I do. I do have a current sponsor, and we continue to do the 12 steps. We also continue to read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she has me reading page 1 through 174 right now. So we have current assignments and doing current things always, constantly.
All right, very good. And what's your sobriety date?
My sobriety date is August 28th, 2009.
I have just one concern.
Sure.
Your petition. You indicated, and it sounds like you have a great deal of introspection going on and reflection, working the steps, and you said that you're engaged in self-care. One part, an element of self-care is really an awareness of triggers. Wouldn't you agree?
I do.
And the reason I bring that up, of course, is this 2015 Disturbing the Peace conviction, which resulted, and the basis for that was some kind of vandalism. Could you just speak to that? Because it sounds, and the reason I'm asking that, it sounds like, well, I just want to know your awareness of your triggers.
Well, my triggers had to do with learning to accept the things I cannot change. And this situation I had going on with custody with my ex-husband was something I tried to control and change, and I discussed it with my sponsor. And I have to let go and let God of certain things, and I should have done that. Instead, I tried to control that situation. I ended up taking my vehicle and trying to run back to my house in a hurry and accelerated on the gas and bumped his gate. His gate came off of the tracks, and he called the police on me and said that that was a form of vandalism. His gate is damaged.
Okay, so how would you respond differently now, given that same kind of fact pattern?
Well, now I have the steps and tools of recovery, and that need for me to control got me in a lot of problems because I had to learn to surrender and to accept the things that I can't control. And certain things I could have addressed it in a court manner. I could have addressed it in a lot of manners. I didn't have to address it right then and right there by getting upset. A lot of things today, I have a sense of peace and serenity in my life because I'm not facing those things and trying to control and change them. I'm accepting them as they come, which I learned through my program. So I don't have to go and confront things as they come. Some things you have to let it go. And I could have certainly kept the peace and let that go, and that would not have happened. And that's what I'm doing differently today. Peace is very important, and acceptance is very important.
All right, thank you. I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Board Member Amazola.
Thank you so much for your candid testimony, and thank you for sharing about the 2015 misdemeanor. So just so that we understand this, what I'm just trying to clarify and make sure we all understand what you just said, which is you're in custody, you share custody with your ex-husband, and there was a problem, and you wanted to resolve this problem by leaving the premise, his home. And is this the same spouse that you had suffer from domestic violence?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were trying to leave his home in a rush to resolve this custody problem, and you damaged his fence, which costed about $100, if that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
A little bit over $100?
Actually, if I may clarify, the $109 was the fine the court imposed.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Got it. Okay, so you were not asked to fix the fence?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so the court had a fine of $109.
And that was for the conviction to a count 2 disturbing the peace, and the count 1 vandalism charge was dismissed as part of that terminal disposition, which she was not put on any probation.
Okay. So the case was not dismissed?
Correct. The case was not dismissed. She
Wasn't-
entered a no contest
No
plea
contest.
to a misdemeanor 415 disturbing the peace.
Disturbing the peace,
And
okay.
the terminal disposition is that, with the term terminal, as an officer of the court, I'm also a criminal defense attorney, the term terminal reflects that no probation was imposed.
Okay. All right. So it seems that in your recovery, you have only had one, this 2015 case, and it was triggered by your spouse and you coming into an altercation. I also heard over and over that you have a cordial relationship with your spouse, ex-spouse, and I would like to learn how you plan to react differently, because we want to protect the public, and if he's a trigger and he is in your life, how are you going to react differently in the future?
Well, for one thing, I have educated myself on the issues of domestic violence by completing a 6-week course in domestic violence advocacy, doing a great deal of extensive research on domestic violence, and also working in that shelter, which has been a 2-year volunteer position, speaking to other victims of domestic violence and learning about that cycle of abuse. I have learned that we do conduct business. We do have 2 sons, so we have to conduct business now. Fortunately, they're over the age of 18 now. So when we do have an issue, it's by telephone. We don't really see each other in person. But I do avoid contact. But we're cordial. He's in recovery. I wish him the best. He wishes me the best. But I have to focus on my life. And my first priority is to myself, my children, and my career, and keeping that safe. And those are my priorities right now currently.
Are there any other triggers?
The triggers that may come about for me, I think, was my personal stresses. And I learned how to deal with stress basically through my program by a reliance on my higher power, by prayer. And that has made all the difference for me, that I can pray in time of needs, because there will be difficult times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have you taken any CEUs to improve your knowledge in nursing?
I wasn't aware I could still take CEUs. I did acquire an NCLEX program tests and different materials to keep myself up to date at home. But the way that my license was revocated, I didn't participate in anything specifically that would go on record, but I did buy a lot of material and books, particularly related to pediatric nursing.
Do you have the means to take CEU credits?
I do.
Do you have the means and the time to retake the test?
I do.
Have you participated in counseling or therapies?
I do. I do have a therapist by the name of Joseph Liu. He's been my therapist for the last 3 years. He's someone I can go talk to. He works me through anything that may come up outside of my program or steps. And he has given me great recommendation of progress. He's willing to, anything. And he's very eager for me. He feels that it's time for me to get back to the duties that he feels this was a calling for me. This is where I need to be.
Are you currently employed?
No, I'm not formally employed. I do volunteer at the shelter. I haven't taken on a payroll of any kind, but I do work in the domestic shelter as a domestic violence advocate, and I do write material for the domestic violence shelter, which is a facilitator of classes, but I choose to do that without being paid because that helps the shelter right now.
Okay. That would be all for me. Thank you.
Dr. Bass DeMartinez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I really do not have questions, but do want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
President Endozo.
Thank you. I do not have any current questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Carpenter.
Just one quick question. You do have an outstanding balance. Do you have the means to retire that debt?
Yes, I have been making payments on it, sending in payments, but any other outstanding debts, that won't be a problem for me to get that caught up.
Okay, it's a balance of some $1,200, $1,300.
That won't be a problem. I can make that.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Board Member Turner.
So congratulations on all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations on all your hard work towards rehabilitation.
Thank you.
Okay, so I do have some more detailed questions about the 2015 conviction. And so I don't know if your attorney needs to help you or not. So the charges were misdemeanor vandalism and...
That is correct, Board Member Turner. The case initiated with the case number I provided the court, MVI 1405571, excuse me, the case number I provided the board. The original charge was one single misdemeanor count in count one of Penal Code 594 vandalism. When the case was resolved, they dismissed that count one. The court added a count two, Penal Code 415 misdemeanor for disturbing the peace. She pled no contest at that time. The court did not impose any probation and ordered a terminal disposition except for the imposition of a fine of $109.
Okay, so when you say that when the case was resolved after the initial charge...
Correct.
What do you mean by that exactly?
What I mean is she pled no contest to that charge in count two, the disturbing the peace, which is considered a guilty plea for purposes of not only the board, but also the court considers it a guilty plea as well.
And then after that guilty plea, then they recharged her or added another charge?
No. The count two was as part of the plea agreement, if you will, between the court, the district attorney. Correct. They didn't necessarily reduce count one. They just dismissed count one, and she pled guilty to an added count two, which is the Penal Code 415. So they add a count two. She pleads no contest, which is effectively a guilty plea, and in exchange, the court dismissed the initial charge of a count one, Penal Code 594, which is the vandalism. So that case then was considered closed by the court at that time, subject to her payment of the $109 fine.
Which she did, and
Which
then
she did,
it
correct.
was resolved.
and that case is closed, with, again, no probation.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty, questions?
I do have a few. When is the last time you practiced as a licensed vocational nurse?
I practiced in 2009.
Do you have any criminal convictions that the board is unaware of besides the one that we just previously discussed?
No, ma'am.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe earlier you stated that there was a letter from your sponsor. Can you direct me as to where that letter is?
We're currently making some copies. I have a sponsor, and I am a sponsor. So there's a couple letters there. One is for my sponsor, and the other are for the people I do sponsor.
Which one is this? Correct, the sponsee is what you meant.
Yeah,
Please clarify, you meant the sponsee letter.
Yeah, excuse me, 2 sponsee letters.
Okay. Do you have a current letter from your sponsor?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's have the board get copies of these additional documents.
Yes, Your
You
Honor,
have them?
these were the additional 3 character reference letters that are, I've given a copy to the Attorney General, and I do have 9 copies to distribute to the board.
Go ahead and do that at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to collectively mark these character references as Petitioner's Exhibit E, which is next in line.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would seek to introduce those at this time.
Okay, any objection, Ms. Doherty, to the additional documentation?
No objection.
All right, so Exhibit E will be admitted. So, Ms. Doherty, I guess you can continue on with your questioning.
I guess I'll restate my question. If not, that's fine. Is there a current letter from your sponsor? I just want to make sure I'm not missing it as well as the board.
No, I'm sorry, I meant the sponsees. We didn't copy the sponsor letter, but I can provide that.
Have you worked through the 12 steps?
Yes, ma'am. I worked through the 12 steps again in 2016.
Have you completed all 12 steps?
All 12 steps.
What was the hardest step?
Admitting that my life was unmanageable and coming to believe in a power greater than myself.
Do you have a relapse prevention plan?
My relapse prevention plan is I'm very close to the High Desert Community Center, which offers me unlimited treatment, and I could go to my counselor at any time and re-enter or re-seek treatment, but they have classes you can sit in on to kind of review your steps or do something, but it's called a relapse prevention program, and I participated in it several times.
If your license is reinstated on a probationary status, will you be able to comply with a probation?
I will.
I have no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Doherty. Mr. Castillo or Ms. Villarreal, would you like to say something in closing?
Your Honor, I would just indicate in closing, I believe Ms. Villarreal has presented significant evidence of rehabilitation, and more importantly, for this board's consideration, the reinstatement of a probationary license or a license on a probationary basis She's indicated her willingness to not only take the NCLEX exam and any other terms and conditions the board would require, but I think it's important to note that based on her compliance history with both court probations, she's demonstrated that she's not only amenable to probation supervision, but more importantly, suitable for the department's, for the board supervision, and that she will be a successful candidate for reinstatement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Ms. Villarreal?
Yes, I just like to say that my recovery is rock solid and my dedication and passion for this field is continuing. And I would appreciate any opportunity to become a licensed vocational nurse again. Thank you.
Okay, let me lastly ask the board if they have any questions based on the additional documentation.
I do. Of these letters, are they aware, are any of them aware of the circumstances you're facing in terms of why your license was revoked?
Yes, because these people are in my recovery and we do share AA program. I do discuss sensitive topics, so they are aware of everything going on in my life. And so they wrote the letter being completely aware of those things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I just want to understand. So Jessica Camacho, what's her relationship to you, or?
That's my sponsee.
That's her sponsee. Okay, and this is sponsee. And then, I'm sorry if I say the name wrong, Portia Arthurs?
Portia Arthurs is a occupational therapist.
Is she your occupational therapist? Or?
No, just a friend of mine who happens to be an occupational therapist.
Okay, thank you.
Just one follow-up, Your Honor. So you have more than one sponsee?
Yeah, I have 2 sponsees currently.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So on one of the letters of reference, it's from your sponsee. These become a part of your packet. And on there it says that do not wish to be drawn into public, that we remain anonymous. Is she aware that it goes into the packet?
Yes, we discussed that. She's Native American and she puts her Native American name. She doesn't use her regular name, but she did use her Native American name and provided her phone number and all information.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm seeing no other questions from the board. Okay, so no more additional?
Sorry, we noticed there are numbers since it is public record, just reminders, redacting that kind of private information.
Okay, so the personal identifying information that's on any of the exhibits, for that matter, will be redacted. And I'll go through those documents. I don't think there's too many items that reflect personal identifying information. Okay, so last word. Anything further?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and demonstrate my rehabilitation efforts and where I am today. And this saved my life. So I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I am looking forward to doing great things in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The matter is submitted, the record is closed, and we are going to power through yet our next hearing. And then after that will be the lunch break. Off the record.
I'll tell you right now, you were fantastic. I was a little worried.
Do you want to, it's up to you if you want to power through or just break now.
It's just amazing to me how you can perform. I'm still here now, so I'm still here.
Mr. Castillo, can I get your business card, please? All right, the board has collectively decided to break now for lunch, and everybody can come back at 1 o'clock. So the next hearing that will commence will be with petitioner Rachel Ashton. So we'll adjourn until 1 o'clock. Okay, we're back on the record. And I'm noting for the record that there is a quorum of the members present. Oh, that's right. Okay, so this afternoon we have board member Maxie, here this afternoon. And so all of the board members are now present for the next petition hearing, which is for Rachel Ashton. Ms. Ashton, please come forward, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to call the case. We are on the record in the matter of the petition of Rachel Ashton. This is OAH number 2019-041-098. Ms. Ashton, I'm going to put you under oath, so if you could kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Whoop, I think you're going to have to put that microphone way up close to your mouth and just speak as loudly as you can so we can all hear you.
Sure. Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And before we begin, did you bring any additional documents with you other than what's already before the board?
So I did bring additional documents, and that would be a recommendation letter from my last employers.
Okay.
They're inviting me
closer up to the
work
microphone?
back with them once, if my license becomes active, they're interested in hiring me back.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, you have to get way up close to that mic so I can hear you and all the other board members can hear you as well. So do you have copies of those additional documents with you?
I do.
Okay, if you could kindly provide those to Ms. Doherty, who's seated next to you, and as well as all of the members of the board so they can have an opportunity to review those documents.
Are these all separate documents or are these sets?
They're all, they can be distributed. They're not sets yet, but they're all individually dispersed. Everyone.
This is. So as I take one, can you start passing them down to the board members?
Thank you.
That's just my enrollment for school, so you didn't need to see that. Okay. Great. Yeah, and this one as well. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the board members should have all of the additional documentation, which will be considered in addition to your petition packet. May I take the appearances of the parties first, starting with the Attorney General's office?
Good afternoon, Your Honor, the board members. My name is Caitlin Doherty, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Business and Professions Code 2878.7 and Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the board has adequate information from which to make a decision.
Thank you. And you, ma'am, are for the record, just state your name.
Rochelle Ashton.
And Ms. Ashton is a petitioner in this matter. Ms. Doherty?
I would first like to mark for identification and to offer into evidence our exhibit binder. The board members and the petitioner have been provided a copy of the same set of this exhibit binder. What's been pre-marked as Exhibit A is the petition for reinstatement with accompanying documents. Exhibit A generally consists of the petition for reinstatement and a letter from Relief Nursing Services verifying petitioner's prior employment. Exhibit B is a license certification. Exhibit C is a notice of hearing and related correspondence. Exhibit D is the 2015 board decision, and Exhibit E is the 2012 board decision. At this time, I'd like to ask that these exhibits be admitted into evidence.
All right, all of the exhibits have been marked, and if there's no objection, Ms. Ashton, they're going to be admitted. Okay, do you not, no objection, right?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as far as the additional documents, I'm going to go ahead and mark those right now. There's about looks like 4 or 5 different documents. There's a statement from you, Ms. Ashton, dated May 16th, 2019. I'm going to mark that as petitioner's F. Looks like a ASBN course registration document. I'm going to mark that as Exhibit G. It's another document that appears to be your resume. Consisting of 5 pages. That's going to be marked as Petitioner's Exhibit H. And lastly, a certification from Relief Nursing Services, Inc., stated May 15th, 2019. I'm going to mark that as Exhibit I. So those are all of the documents that I have in evidence. Ms. Doherty, statement?
I'll now provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's license number is 222279. The license was first issued on August 17, 2016. On May 10, 2011, the board filed accusation number VN 2008-2988 against petitioner, alleging that petitioner's petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when she was convicted twice in 2019 for driving while her license was suspended following her 2006 alcohol-related conviction. In 2010, when respondent renewed her vocational nurse license, respondent made a false statement as to a material fact on her renewal application, in that she answered no to the question whether she had been convicted of any crime since she last renewed her license. On June 29, 2012, the board issued a decision and order adopting the proposed decision in case number VN 2008-2988, effective July 9, 2012, in which respondent's vocational nurse license was revoked. However, the revocation was stayed and respondent's license and certification were placed on probation for a period of 2 years with certain terms and conditions. On August 13, 2014, the board filed a petition to revoke. The petition to revoke was filed due to petitioner failing to comply with the board's probation program by failing to obey all laws due to violating her criminal probation, submit written reports, notify the board of a change of address, providing employers with a notification of her probation, completion of the required education courses, maintaining an active license, and complying with the cost recovery requirements. On April 17, 2015, a final decision and order adopting a default decision in case number VN 2008-2988, and it became effective on May 17, 2015, when petitioner's license was revoked. On August 20th, 2018, petitioner filed a petition for reinstatement. Petitioner is now requesting that the board reinstate her license. Because the burden is on the petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question the petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Ms. Ashton, would you like to make a statement?
Not right now, Your Honor.
Okay, we're going to switch it over then to questioning by the board members, starting with my left. Board Member Mountain.
I just want clarification looking at your resume. So you are continuing to work, it looked like in home care agencies in a different role. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is have you taken any CEU classes during this time to continue to stay current in your field?
Currently, at this time, I am taking nursing CEUs with nursingce.com.
And your subject matter that you focused on?
Definitely focusing on continuing education, re-educating myself in the nursing field. I haven't completed the course itself, but I am continuing to go through the courses online.
Do you remember the name of the course? I mean, are you focusing on med-surg?
So at this time, I'm currently focusing on medication errors.
And
that's the course.
And should your license be reinstated, what field of interest would you consider going back to in nursing?
So if my license was reinstated, I would go back to my previous nursing practice, and that includes skilled nursing, behavioral health, and extended care and long-term care, caring for the aging adults, such as where I've been working at in home care agency, where we provided caregivers and nurses to care for clients in their home so they can thrive in their home for the elderly.
Ms. Ashton, I'm going to ask you to put that microphone right up to your mouth there because we can barely hear you. So
Sure.
it's movable, so you can.
Okay, thank you.
I have no other questions.
All right.
Okay.
Board Member Sellers?
Good afternoon.
Good noon.
Okay, so where do we start? My concern is honesty and integrity among our nurses. Let me start with why are you here now trying to redeem your license?
So I'm here in front of the Board of Nursing and administrators requesting to reobtain my nursing license because I've always felt that that was my role. And, it was always a missing piece of my life. I've dedicated myself to nursing since I was 21. I started as a certified nursing aide, became a medical assistant, and just went up the ladder and became a licensed vocational nurse, which I was very proud of. I graduated back in 2006 in the vocational nursing program at Unitech, got licensed, practiced for 7 years. Prior to becoming a nurse, I did make the mistake of catching a DUI and not reporting that to the board. And so as I was practicing, I was dealing with resolving the case, the DUI case, and it wasn't reported to the board.
Okay, so with your passion towards nursing, why, when you were placed on probation, did you fail to meet so many of the requirements of the probation?
While reporting compliance back in 2015, I was working for Mills Peninsula. I had a supervisor that I would report to and have her sign all of my quarterly reports. So she was the person I would go to have her sign and evaluate my progress and assessments so I could send over to the board. I did that. However, I did discontinue only because it was hard for me at the time, with submitting those reports because I was asking the same person to complete the reports and evaluation. So I wasn't able to go to the other nursing supervisors because I wasn't on their shift. I only worked on one shift, and that was a PM shift at Mills Peninsula.
So it was difficult?
I wouldn't say it was difficult. I think, I think it was overwhelming because I always felt that my license was at stake, and then my assignment ended. So once my assignment ended, I wasn't able to report any of my quarterly reports, and that's when it ended.
But you knew you were still required to submit the reports regardless of whether you were working as a nurse, correct?
At the time, I wasn't aware what the next process was.
Did you go through an orientation when you went on to probation?
The only orientation that I had was to meet with the enforcement unit here. It was Daisy Fuentes at the time, so I did that orientation with her face-to-face, one-on-one.
Right, and she explained all of this to you in great detail, I assume.
From what I remember, she had explained the process, but not about if my assignment ended.
I presume you assigned something that said that you had all this explained to you. So,
From what I remember,
what has changed now? Because obviously, if we were to grant you your license, you go back onto probation for probably a longer period. What has changed? Why now? Why now would I expect that you would follow through on this at this time? What's changed?
Well, back then, I was younger. Now that I've matured more. I know exactly that, how important that this license means to me. And, it's been missing for the last 4 years. And I've always felt in my heart that I needed to come back, even though I found another career.
You're correct. This license is valuable.
It is.
So the concern also is honesty, integrity. What got you into this situation was one, failing to notify the board of a conviction. Why did that happen?
I guess at the time I was scared, and I didn't know how to report my license at the convictions at the time.
It was on the form. It asked you if you had been convicted.
I understand. I think at the time I was just afraid to submit,
Okay.
or maybe in denial that of my conviction.
And then the driving on the suspended license, why did you feel that was appropriate for you to disregard that suspension? You seem to disregard a lot.
So on December 1st, 2008, I was stopped by the police officer failing to stop at a stop sign. And I was pulled over while my driving privilege was suspended. I was pulled over because I was actually at the courthouse. I appeared at court that day to resolve one of my cases, and the police actually pulled me over.
For DUI?
While I was actually exiting the premises.
But was it a court case for the DUI that ultimately started all this?
Right. So it was a ripple effect. And then on April 23rd, 2009, I was driving under the influence, it states, and this was due to because I was actually pulled over for DUI when I had drank cough syrup. I was ill that day. No one could take me to the store. I drove myself, and I was pregnant.
So you got a DUI while you were...
Well, the police had cited me for DUI for taking medicine, for admitting that I'd taken the cough syrup. They consider that as a DUI.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Deerking.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Ashton.
Good afternoon.
Page A6 of your petition for reinstatement, you indicated that you have abstained from the use of alcohol and or drugs since the date of your sobriety. You checked yes, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yet you failed to indicate a sobriety date. Do you have a sobriety date?
My sobriety date, I have stopped, alcohol. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I don't do any drugs. I don't smoke. My sobriety date, I would say, was back in 2013. And that would be April.
And why does that time frame stand out for you, April 2013? What was going on then?
I think at that time it was a turning point for me. I had a family. When I was pulled over for DUI, I didn't have any kids at the time. And then along the way, through time, I had kids. I have 3 kids. They're 8 now, 8, 10, and 12. So I've really focused on them once they were born, and I've been focusing on family and taking care of them. And that's changed. And being that my mistake when I was 25, now I'm 39. So that's given me a substantial amount of time to grow and just really realize about how important my license is and being absent from my license.
So after having these experiences with alcohol-related convictions, you never attended any AA or kind of support groups?
So I actually have a therapist that I go to. His name is Andy Yen. He's located at Kaiser Daly City. He's a social worker and he's my therapist. And I've been under his care since October 2015.
Do you bring up alcohol-related issues?
There is no alcohol-related issues at this time. I think when I speak with him, it has a lot to do with just stress, or if I need to speak to someone and kind of vent to him. But there's no alcohol issues that I need to speak to him with because I don't drink.
Okay, and I bring that up because you clearly had a relationship with alcohol at some point.
I did have a DUI, yes, but it wasn't an ongoing problem.
Okay, following up on what Mr. Sellers was talking about, there appears to be a pattern or a history of non-compliance. And board action is one thing. And then it's a different form of non-compliance when you're not obeying a court order. As part of, at Exhibit E, part of the petition to revoke your probation, paragraph 11. As part of the terms of her criminal probation, the San Mateo County ordered respondent to surrender to the county jail on December 19, 2009, to serve 30 days in county jail and 19 days concurrent in lieu of paying a fine. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Respondent failed to surrender to the county jail. As a result, 3 months later, on March 8, 2010, court ordered respondent to appear. On April 8, 2010, respondent failed to appear, and the court issued a bench warrant. Is that right?
That's correct.
On March 24, 2014, the court modified respondent's probation and ordered her to surrender to the county jail on May 10, 2014, and to complete the remainder of her jail term through the Sheriff's Alternate Sentencing Bureau program.
That is correct. And I actually opted for the alternative program with the Sheriff's Department and completed those time.
So do you see how an outside observer might conclude that there's a history of non-compliance?
I understand, Your Honor.
So what is different today from a few years ago in your life that would make you a better candidate for probation?
To be aware, to communicate, and, maybe view the guidelines more carefully, and be more compliant. If I have any questions, reach out and get, maybe information on how to proceed.
So you didn't have those tools or skills when you were under court direction?
At the time, I probably wasn't looking into it, but I feel like now it's changed. Of course, I'm more careful, with my actions that can lead to consequences. I'm aware of that.
And you were not aware before?
At the time, I wasn't aware as aware.
Okay, so what are the indexes of your awareness?
I think maybe now it's just a different time. I've gotten more mature and older, so to me, I feel like things have changed.
But there are no markers, as it were, to indicate that increase in awareness in your life. Is there one or two things that you can point to specifically that would suggest that you are more aware now than you were several years ago?
I think
Because because disobeying a court order is extraordinarily serious. Wouldn't you say that?
I do agree with that, yes. Paying fines, maybe going through the details more carefully. I think that's how I would try to be more compliant. And then even calling the court's clerk for information.
Is there any particular reason that you did not surrender at the county jail like you were supposed to?
I surrendered at the county jail in December 2009. And when I got there, they had actually turned me away and said that I would have to go back to court. And then they gave me the opportunity to do the sentencing program.
Well, okay, it looks like there were some steps in between because there was a failure to appear issued.
They didn't accept me when I actually appeared at the jail to turn myself in.
And the court had already issued a sentence?
They had requested that I would go back to court.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Board Member Amazola.
No questions at this time.
Board Member Dr. Bass de Martinez.
Thank you. Hi there.
Hi.
I'm going to ask you to almost get on top of the mic like this
Okay.
and talk to us.
That's fine.
Okay. You have to move it, though, so that's right in front of you.
All right.
It won't bite.
It's fine.
Oh, that's a good voice. Can you keep it at that level?
Yes, that's fine.
I'm just a little confused, and I need you to help me not be confused, all right? You've been asked about compliance and what happened when you didn't surrender in court.
Mm-hmm.
You said you went, and they told you you need to come back or go someplace else. Walk me through that again.
So they requested that I would have to go back to court. I did surrender myself on December 2009 to the jailhouse in San Mateo, and they had requested I go back to court because my name wasn't on the list to turn myself in.
Okay. Who did you talk to? How did that happen? You said they said your name wasn't on a list?
So when you turn yourself in, there is a gate down in the San Mateo jail.
Keep talking into the mic.
So I don't remember quite surely. I did turn myself in on December 2009 to the jail, and then there were officers there up front. They're the gatekeepers. And so when I turned myself in, gave them my name, they said that they didn't have my name on the list, and then I would have to go back to court. I think there's a lot of moving parts to, my history and my court dates.
You want to help me understand why it makes it different? I'm still a little confused. You said there's some history to that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I'm understanding about that history. I'm still just a little confused. If one is supposed to surrender,
Mm-hmm.
and then yet you go to the location,
Right.
and you're told no,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't quite make sense. So
I don't have the answer to that as well. I was confused myself when I turned myself in. I was just redirected to go back to court.
go back to court the next day, the next week.
Schedule a time to see the judge regarding my cases.
Okay.
And so all my cases are falling regarding moving violations or driving on a suspended license. Since then, I've obtained my driver's license, and I've had it since then. So I've gone to court and dismissed my cases, have a current driver's license today.
You have a driver's license today. Something happened between the time when you said they did not arrest you, when you turned yourself in,
They did not arrest me.
and you were told to go elsewhere.
Right, to
Did
the
you
court.
go back to court?
I
Tell
did
us
have to
about
go
that.
back to court, and I had to hire a lawyer.
Okay, hold
and
on for a second. You went back to court the next day, a week later,
It wasn't
2
the
months?
next day. It was the next 2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks? But you hired a lawyer between that time?
Right, correct.
What did we need the lawyer to do?
To bring me back on the sentencing program.
You had been on a sentencing program.
So he requested that I become on the, that I go to the sentencing program instead of serving time in jail.
So the lawyer helped identify the alternatives or the choices you had.
Correct.
Were those choices available when you yourself went to court before you were told to turn yourself in?
From what I remember, I'm not sure, but I was given the choice when I went back to court.
With the attorney?
Right, correct.
Okay. I didn't mean to stop you, but I wanted to make sure I was with you. Continue.
So I was given the opportunity to go to the sentencing program and completed those that time and converted for the jail time.
Right. Now, this was related, well, there was a DWI in there.
Yes,
And
correct.
some other infractions.
Correct.
Did the court order ask you to do anything about support groups like AA or anything?
They did. I actually had to go through a DUI class. It's a DUI class for 9 months. I completed that. It was at the Occupational Health Center in Mountain View. So all of those courses have been completed.
What else did you have to do?
I also had a breathalyzer in my car for 2 years, and I've had that already, and then completed that as well.
So you don't have that
No longer have
at
the
this time?
breathalyzer, no.
Okay. As a result of all this, do you drink today or do you not drink today?
I don't drink today at all.
At all?
Not at all.
That means not yesterday?
Not yesterday.
Not tomorrow if we had a birthday party?
Not tomorrow. I don't.
Not next week if you had a celebration?
No, not next week.
Okay.
I don't drink at all.
Okay. Since you went through the program, oftentimes we learn there are things that happen to us or things that affect, we call them triggers, that make us drink. What did you learn about your triggers? And what are they?
The reason why I drank when I got pulled over for the DUI, it wasn't because of a trigger. I would say it was because I was out with friends at the time, and I just made a bad decision to go behind the wheel of the car. I don't have an ongoing drinking problem. It was just at that time we had drinks that evening.
So you don't have a drinking problem?
I don't feel that I do. I don't drink.
Okay, all right. But the trigger was being out with friends?
Just being out with friends at the time.
Just any friends, or are they of a certain type? They're ones that you can't say no to? What's
I can
different
say no
about
to
those friends versus
I've
friends today?
had friends that pressured me to drink, and I have solidly told them no, I'm not drinking.
Okay.
And I've had friends where I would see them drink, but I would not participate.
Okay. Want to just ask a little different piece. Given what you've just shared, I'm still confused about the challenge of following the orders, the requested steps in your previous agreement with the board. What happened? You mentioned various supervisors. When your assignment was finished.
When my assignment was finished, I wasn't able to submit quarterly reports at the time.
You weren't able, or you didn't have someone else to do it?
Sign off, correct.
Did you call anybody at the board? Or try to communicate to ask, what do you do?
I didn't communicate with the board at the time. I felt that I wasn't able to approach Daisy Fuentes. She was handling my case at the time, and the communication with her was challenging. So even if I did try to speak with her, I couldn't approach her.
What do you mean?
It was hard to communicate with her.
Okay.
So I couldn't really speak with her. I would email her, she wouldn't respond. I would call, leave messages, she wouldn't respond.
Okay. All right. Given the kinds of questions I'm asking you, does anything come to mind that you want us to know?
Well, I do have my statement. If I could.
We did read that.
Okay.
But anything besides the document, something you said, oh, I forgot to tell them this.
Well, I do understand that compliance is very important, and moving forward, I know how important that is for my license. And so, if I was given and granted my license back, I would take the proper steps in the process to be compliant by the board's instructions. Thank you.
President Mendoza,
No questions at this time.
Board Member Maxey.
Yes. You've been asked a couple questions today, and thank you for coming today. But I'm having some continued challenges as well with this, and so I'm going to ask you a couple questions and hoping that you can answer them to the best of your ability. Number one, why did you pursue a career in nursing?
I was passionate about caring for people. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. In my statement here, I've mentioned that I got into the nursing field because I wanted to help other people throughout my career.
Okay, thank you. And how long did you know that you were going to be in front of this board to present and hopefully make a case for your reinstatement today?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How long ago did you know that you were going to be today here?
Oh, about 2 months. I had 2 months to prepare.
And so then
I was given 2 months.
Thank you. Then, Ms. Ashton, I'm having a real problem with what you provided us today. The lack of evidence and information from people that could support your case and state that you would be a very viable candidate to be reinstated, I don't see it. In fact, the letter that or the certification that you provided today, to me, in many ways, is a very weak certification. And I'm really having challenges with your compliance issues And just, I'm not hearing enough of the passion that you say you have for this field. Although your resume is impeccable in many ways, even that has some holes in it in regards to the longevity that you've actually been with those particular places. So do you have anything to say about that in particular, around the longevity, why you have not really stayed for a long period of time in most of these jobs?
Well, a lot of them are contract positions. I work alongside with recruiters, so I accept any job that comes my way. Working as a recruiter myself in healthcare, whether if it's healthcare recruiting, medical recruiting, I've established a lot of relationships with these staffing agencies. So when I am offered a position, it usually starts as a contract position. And a lot of these assignments do last 3 months to 6 months.
And why no letters of recommendation from them to prove that you...
That recommendation letter from Relief Nursing, I actually worked for them for 6 years as an LVN.
That was before your incident?
That was before I got into another field after nursing.
And have you done any community service? What can you say to this board that you've actually done to actually prove that what your past was, and that you've moved forward from there, and that you're a better person, and you're going to follow the rules? Because much of your job that you would have as a LVN would be following the rules, of course, right?
It is, yes. I agree with you. I also do caregiving on the side as a secondary job on the weekend, so I'll accept caregiving positions just to give that direct patient care.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Board Member Carpenter?
Yes, thank you. Maybe you can clarify this for me. I'm seeing a discrepancy in your testimony here today versus the application that you made. You mentioned something about having attended a mandatory chemical support group, yet in your application you checked no, never attended, and then you also mentioned seeking therapy, or that you said that you have a regular therapist, and on your application you checked no, never.
So with checking no, meaning that I haven't attended like a group therapy or an AA meeting, I haven't done that because I don't have an ongoing drinking problem. However, I do have a therapist that I can go to, and I've been under his care since 2015 in October. I do have a letter stating that from him, if you guys would need that. So he can actually vouch for my progress, and his phone number is on the letter as well.
So you just made an error in checking no, never?
No, as in for any group therapy or group classes or any group rehabilitation programs.
It doesn't ask about group. Okay, thank you. Also, you still have $1,234.50. Are you prepared to pay that to the board?
Yes, I am.
Costs, and you realize you'd have to retake the exam?
I do. Yes, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Turner?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So when you were in probation, you mentioned that you had a difficult time obtaining reports from your supervisor, right? So that wasn't completely under your control. But what happened with taking your coursework? That seems like that's something that is within your control. And it says that you did not take the required courses for your probation. Why not?
As I probably mentioned earlier, I wasn't fully aware of, the steps that I was to take to comply at the time. It was a different time for me. I was overwhelmed with the board's expectations and guidelines, I had to report quarterly, of course, and continue, with those processes. And I just felt at the time I wasn't able to maintain.
Did they provide you something in writing? Did the board provide you with a list of requirements or some sort of outline for you to follow to comply with your probation?
They did.
Did you read it?
I read it the first time I did the orientation here with Daisy. But after that, I don't think I was able to reference back to it. I may have lost the
You lost
document.
it?
Yeah.
And so as far as your sentencing and your conviction and your failure to report the conviction, tell me about the Alternative Sentencing Bureau. What was the outcome of that?
So I completed about 160 hours with the County of San Mateo. I was to report on the weekends to clean highways along with others as serving time.
All right. And so that happened in 2009, correct?
Correct.
And your renewal was in 2010, the next year?
Correct.
All right. You were convicted in 2009 and your renewal was in 2010. So can you explain why you did not identify or list the conviction in your renewal application in 2010?
I think I just made that mistake of not reporting at the time. I'm not sure why I did it. And that was my mistake.
Right. Thank you. Yes, and thank you. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Doherty?
I have a few questions. Have any of your convictions been expunged?
They have been dismissed.
Do you have any records of this?
I don't have it on hand with me at the moment.
Following up to a statement you made earlier, you said you just discontinued complying with your probation. If the board does reinstate your license and you are put on probation again this time and it gets hard, what assurance can you provide the board that you just won't discontinue complying with probation again?
I've been away from my license for 4 years. I think that time was enough to be away from it. I always knew I wanted to come back.
Is there anything you would do differently this time around?
I would follow the processes. I would read the compliance documents, the guidelines, the expectations of the board, pay all my fines, continue practicing my nursing license with integrity.
If you turn to page A4 of your petition, you stated that you were, at the time you filled out this petition, that you were enrolled in a Legal Boundaries of California nursing practice class.
Correct.
Did you complete that class?
Not yet, I haven't. It's a very long course, and so I'm still continuing with that. I still have the program online, and I would have to finish the Legal Boundaries course along with my CEUs.
And can you clarify an issue for me? Earlier, have you ever attended Alcoholics Anonymous?
No, I haven't.
I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, Miss Ashton, your documents are in evidence. Do you have any witnesses to testify on your behalf?
I have my fiance with me, if that's okay.
Do you wish for your fiance to testify on your behalf?
I do, yes, please.
Okay. If you could bring your fiance forward. Sir, before you sit down, if you could kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please have a seat, sir, and if you could pull that microphone close to your mouth. Hopefully it's on.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, and if you could kindly state and spell your name for the record, please.
My name is Albert Fallerina, F as in Frank, Allorina.
Can you spell that one more time? I'm sorry.
F as in Frank, Allorina.
Fallerina?
Fallerina.
Okay. And what is it you would like to tell the board this afternoon?
So, just hearing everything that she's done in the past, she's already been honest with me, but it sounds so much like a different person because now, I've had trouble with my past. I've drank, I've done drugs. I put myself in a program, and I met her about 3 years ago, and we've lived together for the last 3 years. We have 5 kids together, or she has 3 kids, I have 2 kids, but together we have 5 kids. We have a household that doesn't do drugs or drinks, and she's really been very, very supportive in everything. So just hearing like she wasn't really responding to probation or the board or anything she's done is kind of, I didn't expect it because now she pushes me to do the right thing. She pushes me to work, not drink. She helps support me for everything. So it's weird to hear how she was before I met her and now, because now all we do is spend time with family. She works. There's a point in 3 months ago when I wasn't working because I'm a sushi chef and a pastry chef. So I was in between jobs, and she took it upon herself to just work as much as she can to just to support all of us. And now that I'm working, the last 3 years, all she's talked about is trying to get her nursing license back. I know she sounds scared. She's a little upset, but this is what she wants, and this is what she's been dreaming of for as long as I've known her.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fallerina. Any questions from the board of Mr. Fallerina? Go ahead.
I have a follow-up with Ms. Ashton. Ms. Ashton, you said that your convictions were expunged?
Dismissed.
Were all of them expunged, or
Yes.
some of them?
They are.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, that concludes your testimony, Mr. Fallerina. Any other witnesses?
That's it. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Can I just read my statement for everyone?
No need to, because it is in evidence and the board will review it. So you don't really need to read it into the record.
Okay.
Anything else, though, you'd like to add?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, well, that then concludes the hearing in this matter.
Thank you.
The matter is submitted.
Okay.
The record is closed, and we are off the record. And we'll be moving on to the next petition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton.
Thanks.
All right, next petition hearing is Jaya de Guzman. Good afternoon. Madam Court Reporter, are we just let me know when you're ready. All set? All right. We are on the record in the matter of the petition of Jaya de Guzman. This is OAH number 2019-041-104. All of the board members are here and a quorum is present. May I take the appearances of all of the parties?
Good afternoon, Your Honor and board members. My name is Caitlin Doherty, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Business and Professions Code 2878.7 and Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the board has adequate information from which to make a decision.
Thank you. And Ms. de Guzman, can you identify yourself for the record?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jaya de Guzman.
Okay. Ms. Doherty?
At this time, I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence our exhibit binder. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit binder. What's been pre-marked as Exhibit A is the petition for reinstatement and accompanying documents. Exhibit A generally consists of a petition for reinstatement, a certification from the Food Bank of Contra Costa County for community service hours, 4 letters of recommendation, various continuing education, a certification of completion of first aid, CPR, and AED dated June 8th, 2018, and a certificate of completion for basic life support for healthcare providers dated May 2nd, 2018. Exhibit B is the license certification. Exhibit C is the notice of hearing and related correspondence. Exhibit D is the 2013 board decision, and Exhibit E is the 2019 board decision. At this time, I'd ask that these exhibits are admitted into evidence.
The exhibits have been marked, and without any objection from Ms. de Guzman, who I believe wishes all of these documents to be introduced into evidence, they are in evidence. Ms. de Guzman, do you have any other documents other than the ones that are already in evidence?
No, I do not.
Okay, very good.
I'll now provide a brief summary of the petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's license number is VN 184820. Petitioner's license was originally issued on June 5th, 1998. The board filed an accusation against petitioner on April 27th, 2007. The basis of that accusation was due to petitioner engaging in unprofessional conduct, being convicted of a crime substantially related to the qualifications of the profession, and for dishonesty, impersonation of a licensed vocational nurse, and unauthorized use of such a title after her license had expired. In addition, it includes excessive force, mistreatment, or abuse of any patient. Petitioner was convicted on June 17th, 2005 for elder and dependent abuse. On December 10th, 2008, the board issued a decision and order adopting the proposed decision in case number VN 2003-2220, in which petitioner's vocational nurse license was revoked effective May 29th, 2009. On November 16th, 2012, petitioner filed a petition for reinstatement. On June 14th, 2013, petitioner appeared in front of this board petitioner's petition for reinstatement on June 14th, 2013 was denied. Again, on August 30th, 2018, petitioner had filed a petition for reinstatement. Petitioner appears now today asking that her license be reinstated. Because the burden is on the petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question the petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Ms. de Guzman, do you have an opening statement?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed.
I want to thank you guys for the time that you're taking to spend with me today. During my last reinstatement, I received the letter, and one of the reasons why it was denied was because I lacked insight into my behavior and because I was timid. Well, that's changed now. When I think back to what happened, right, I recognize what I did was wrong. I was in a bad relationship. I was in an abusive marriage, and I've since left that shortly thereafter. I remember the fights that we would have even right before my shift would start, you know. I didn't have the ability to disconnect my life, my personal life from my home, from my work life. That allowed me to cloud my judgment. I put my patient at risk. I put my license at risk. Ultimately, because of the decision that I made that day to not administer the medication, which is Rosefin, which is an antibiotic therapy that was prescribed to the patient, he was eventually transferred to the hospital. Shortly thereafter, he did pass away. Something that I do live with, you know, because the decision I made that day, because of the overfamiliarity I had with my patient, my inability to be able to disconnect again from to be able to say, hey, you know what stays at home, and I don't bring that to work, is what caused was what ultimately caused my downfall. I do recognize that, you know, that there is a policy and procedures that's set in place, and I said that here in my statement. You have to follow, it's for the nursing students as well, right? You have to follow the doctor's orders. It's there for a reason. And in this case, he had his infection, and Rosefin was a medication that was supposed to have been given to him, but I did not give it. In addition, my documentation, or lack thereof, it wasn't there. If I could do it, you know, there is no amount of excuses or reasoning that's going to justify why I did what I did, right? I just know that moving forward from that day on, that everything I do, I'm very careful with my decision making. I'm a mom now, right? Even in my current role as a leader, I double check and I triple check everything to ensure that I don't leave any room for error. I want to make sure, it's not because, again, I don't trust myself. It's because that one decision that I make can affect the outcome.
Thank you. All right. Questions from the board? Dr. Mountain?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a couple of questions. As I read the description of the incident with your patient, one of the things that comes to my mind is the need for nurses to have critical thinking, and beyond that is critical reasoning. And what concerns me most about this as I read this is that the patient was deteriorating. You reported that he was in a sleepy state, which seemed like a change of level of consciousness that had happened to him over that time, and you didn't report that to anybody. So that causes me great concern, and I wonder what has changed for you now that would bring that to your consciousness, that you would have that observation skill and critical thinking that would spur you to make those phone calls, to advocate for that patient, to step up and do the right thing for this person? What has changed that would make a difference for this patient?
I'm a mom now. Any change in condition of my daughters, I have to make sure I act upon quickly because it's a matter of life and death at that point, right? Or just depending on the severity of what's going on. I'm just more careful with all the decisions that I make. Yeah, I'm just more, because I'm a mom, I just make sure that everything that I do, I make sure that I take care of my daughter because she's dependent on me for everything that she has. I have two daughters. They're both, one is 11 and the other one is 13. If they're not feeling so well, if their tummy hurts, okay, let's make sure we get what's going on. I find out what's the issue. What did you eat? How are you feeling now? You know, and then I follow up with that. I make sure that I act quickly because, again, I don't want to have to take her to the emergency room over something that, you know, that I can take care of at home.
So you think that that will translate into a change in the way you manage your patient care?
I think creating more self-awareness, knowing that that I do have the resources available, that there is a chain of command that I have to follow in order for me to make sure that I execute on my duties. If I know that if I'm in a situation where, you know, I need help or I need assistance, I'm going to seek the resources of my charge nurse, and then I would also notify the doctor and let them know immediately of any change in condition or behaviors.
Thank you. I have no further question.
Board Member Sellers?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So walk me through your decision process. Well, how did you decide? What you did, it was pretty egregious. You were given a direct order by a physician for very serious indications, using a strong antibiotic like that. You don't have to be a nurse to know how important it is to follow through with antibiotics. Talk me through why. How did you come to the conclusion that was appropriate?
I thought he would be okay. Miss one dose, he'd be fine. Sounds ridiculous, I know it does. Because when I miss a medication dose, I'll just double up. I'll be like, okay. But I can't do that. It's his life, right? It's the patient. I was given an order to follow, and I didn't execute on that.
It was more than one dose, wasn't it? It was 3 doses, if I'm not mistaken, that you failed to.
One dose.
Mom. Yeah. Okay. My apologies. Did you have a superior at the time? Was there somebody else that you could have turned to? That was there a reason why you didn't turn to an RN or the doctor in making that decision?
No. I mean, yes, I did have a superior that I can turn to, but no, I didn't.
Let me think on that for a minute. Tell me about the 11 months that you practiced without a license. That's also fairly egregious. What was that about?
Stupidity. My priority was that of trying to fix my relationship, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to hold off. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off. Again, sounds ridiculous, but now, even then, what I've been doing is I've been making sure that I pay my bills on time, making sure that my everything is done in a timely manner, whether it be renewing my registration, renewing my license, renewing my certification as a CPR instructor. I do everything in a timely manner.
Okay. So clearly what happened in your life was pretty profound and significant. You know, having I don't know what to say it, losing a patient like that. What kind of help have you sought? I see a short period of time, looks like 4 months, December 2011 through May 2012, that you saw a psychologist, psychologist. What other forms of support have you sought?
I did see a psychologist for that amount of time. I've used she taught me self-soothing techniques. So during my times of stress or when I was feeling overwhelmed, I would just go into a room. She had me, I have a picture, and then I would stare at it, right? And then she would just basically she just said, just rub your arm. And believe it or not, even to this day, I still use that soothing technique till now. I have the support of my family. I have the support of my friends. I haven't sought any therapy thereafter.
You've alluded, or you've even stated that, and I'm sorry that you were in an abusive relationship. That's a terrible circumstance. However, you've stated that, if not a cause, was a contributing factor to the incident that took place. Both of them now you've stated that as being a contributing factor. How do you plan under a stressful circumstance in the future to deal with stress? This is very serious. Nursing is a very stressful field at times.
Correct.
And you will undoubtedly face very stressful situations. How are you now prepared? That's different than you were those years ago.
You're right. Right now, it's really just prioritizing and just separating myself, you know what I mean? And figuring out, okay, Jaya, what do you need to do? What needs to be done? How can you calm yourself? So I was put in a situation, and I'll share it with you, and this is how I handled it, right? I work for the largest wireless provider in the nation right now, and I was given the opportunity to lead a team of about 21 people. Well, it was 19 at the time, but 21. And I was under enormous amount of stress because I wasn't told that. I knew that I was up for the challenge, and I was up for the challenge. But during that time frame, I wasn't told, hey, Jaya, you're going to be taking over on this day. I was expecting another day. And then shortly thereafter, they said, Jaya, you're on duty. It's all you. It's all you. I said, okay, great. During that transition time, I had a total of 7 people that stepped away because we opened up a new store, and a couple of it promoted. And during that same time frame, we had a representative who had committed suicide. So as a leader in the store, I had to have been able to not only put my emotions to the side, but also lead a team, but also maintain my family life at home. So how I dealt with that was that I had the right leaders in place. I knew that in order for me to function, I had to have a healthy mindset. I trusted the team that I had with me, and I made sure that I delegated the tasks so that way I wouldn't take my work with me at home and vice versa.
Okay. From what I've read, it sounds like you have been successful in your career that you're currently pursuing.
Correct. I was recently promoted to run my own store based on the performance that I had during the time that I held it down for another location.
Outstanding. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Board Member Deerking?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. de Guzman, thank you for being here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just bringing us back here to the incident in question, January of 2004. You testified today that the doctor's order was for a regimen of antibiotics, and you said that you failed to administer one single dose?
From what I recall, yes, it was 1 dose.
The reason I bring that up is one of the factual findings at page E4,
Okay.
Exhibit E4, the packet, paragraph 4. Respondent only administered 2 of the 5 doses. So are you now claiming that that factual finding is incorrect?
You said E4 on number 4?
Correct.
If it's documented in here, obviously we know as a profession that if it was documented in here, this is exactly what happened. I recall only one, but I'm not going to dispute. It's what's written in here.
Well, have you had occasion to reflect over the past number of years on what happened and how you can approach things differently so these serious consequences of a patient death doesn't happen again?
Yes, like I said, mentioned earlier, everything that I do it strategically. I make sure that when I make a decision to do something, that I know the possible outcomes of what can happen, right? I double and triple check everything that I do. It's not because I don't trust myself. It's because I don't want to make a same mistake again. I want to make sure that, we talk about honesty and integrity, and you'll find that in my letters. I'm one of the most honest people that you could probably deal with. I'm very candid in everything that I do. I just make sure that I follow the procedures, I follow the book. We have this thing at work, which is a code of business conduct policy that I always refer to. And that's important because oh, sorry. Yes, at work we have this, it's a guideline that we follow, which is called the Code of Business Conduct policy that we have to follow, and I ensure that I follow that to the T. And I have a reputation of being one of the hardest people to, because everything that I work with, everything that I do, it has to have some type of thing to back it up. I have to be able to reference something because I can never act on. It has to be documented. Everything needs to be a policy. It has to be a procedure.
Another concern I have, I'm sorry, are you finished?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Another concern I have is that regarding this incident in question, there appears to have been a serious breakdown in communication as between you and some of the CNAs who were on staff at the time. Is that right?
Yes.
There were issues relating to the input and output of the patient and whether the patient was eating or not.
Correct.
And your statement at the time was, well, if there had been a change, the CNAs would have told me, but they didn't tell me.
Correct.
Given the state of this patient, how would you have approached things differently?
What I would have done differently was I would have went ahead and communicated directly with his caregiver at that time and find out exactly how much he consumed, how much liquid, what did he eat, if he ate at all. I do that because I want to make sure that I know what's going on. I talk about accountability. At work, as a leader in my position, in my role, I talk about accountability all the time, right? I talk about coaching. I talk about development. And part of being a coach and a leader is making sure that you have effective communication. And I know that anytime that I talk with any of my peers, with any of my staff, I always set the proper expectations. And then if they don't follow through, I hold them accountable. And then much like in this case, because they didn't tell me, I should have held myself to a higher standards. You know what? Talk to me, tell me what's going on.
Okay, one final issue here. The record shows you indicated you went through a pharmacy tech training program, then petitioned to the Board of Pharmacy.
Correct. I wanted to start a career, something closely related to nursing or anything that was medical related, but because, and I scored really high on that. I was one of the top students. And when I tried to apply, basically it was a no, because I currently had a revocation on file. So I kind of put that on the back burner, never pursued it.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Board Member Amazola.
Hi, thank you for coming today. You talk about accountability, and in our healthcare systems, we care for patients. I'm not a nurse,